Welcome back. In our previous class, we had discussed something about the goals of psychology and some of the properties of methods which we use to study in psychology. Now, here comes in this class, we will discuss about the methods which we use to study about some phenomena or conduct our research. These methods can be categorized into two types. First one is descriptive method and second one is qualitative method. As name suggests, by the descriptive method, we only want to gather information about what has happened or what is happening. We will not go into the more details, and that's why we use these methods, that is descriptive methods. First one is naturalistic observation. As per the name, we can say that we will observe our participants in a natural setting, such as the researcher may go to a mall, and then he may observe someone without letting the participant or the person being observed that someone is observing him or her. What is the advantage of this observation method, that is naturalistic observation? It allows the researchers to get a realistic picture of how behavior occurs, because they are actually watching what the behavior is in its natural setting. Whereas in a controlled environment such as in laboratory, there might be some problems that participants can change their behavior, because of course, if I am saying you that I am observing you for my research and you have to behave naturally, then the person whom I am observing, he knows that he is being observed, and that's why his behavior will be naturally changed, will not be natural. But if we have not told that person that we are watching him or her for our study, then the person will behave naturally, and that will give us accurate results that may not will. So here's what the naturalistic observation is. I have told about it, that uh, it comes under the descriptive method, that we only want to know what is happening or what has happened, nothing after that. And based on several observations, we can come to our theory, or we can give some description of what happens, nothing else. What is the problem? I have talked about the advantage of naturalistic observation, and now what is the problem with naturalistic observation? First one is observer bias, about which I had discussed earlier in our previous class, so I'm not going to go into detail of this. And if you haven't attended yet watched that class, go and watch it, because without knowing what is observer effect, what is experimenter effect, you cannot go through other classes which are upcoming, because there we will use several times this effect. Next one is laboratory observation, in which suppose we want to observe a small child. Will that be easy to observe that child in a naturalistic setting, or we want to observe an animal. uh, Observations in such conditions are quite different, quite difficult, and they are also quite different for a matured human being. So it will be easier for us, for a researcher, to observe them in a laboratory setting. That is known as a laboratory observation. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this setting? Advantage is very simple, that it is easy to set up a laboratory for such kind of observations. But what is the problem? The problem is similar, that in laboratory setting, because laboratory setting is a artificial setting environment, and hence the observer or hence participants may change with their behavior, and they may not show their natural behavior, and that's the biggest problem which is with laboratory observation. But both of the observations, either that is laboratory or naturalistic observation, they may lead to hypothesis formation and hence the theory formation. Next one is case study. Case study means we choose one of the case. That case might be a person's case, and we can get into the great detail of that person. For example, I am a person, and I will tell everything about my life, what has happened, what has not happened, etc., etc., etc. in my life. I will, in other words, I will describe my life from my birth to yet, right now. What happened with me, how happened with me, and I will just focus on myself rather than focusing on everyone else. Sigmund Freud has given psychoanalysis a theory which is most contradicted but also yet believed to be a good theory. His entire theory was based on the case studies of his patients, from whom he gathered the information, and based on those information he provided the theories. What are the advantage of this type of theories? The advantage is the detailed amount of the data it provides. Case studies provide one of the largest type of data which we want in our study. Now, what are the problems with the case study? The problem is we cannot apply the same data to others for prediction. As we know, prediction is a goal of psychology. So we cannot say that if a person has felt this in his life span, same thing will be felt by other person, because everyone's life is unique and everyone is unique in many respects, and hence we cannot apply the findings of one case study onto the others in the same manner, but still we can form some hypothesis. And similar thing is also problem here. Observer effect maybe may also occur here also in case studies. Next one is, what are the surveys? Now here's a problem. case study or naturalistic observation. Let's say you want to know about the sexual relationship of someone. Can you watch it in natural environment, or can you apply naturalistic observation here, or can you apply laboratory observation here? That will be ethically wrong. And case studies also, because you cannot ask someone in front of you that what do you feel during our relationship, etc, etc. So how to study about such type of incidents or events? That's what, where comes the surveys. Actually we select the population, random population, uh, from the age groups which we want, about which we want to study, and that population will be known as our sample. And based and with our sample, we will to our sample population we will give some questionnaire. It might be also interview. It may be on telephone also, on internet also, or whatever easy for us. We can conduct these surveys. We can conduct these questionnaires and get to know about the thinking of our sample population about such questions, and hence we can come to a conclusion that why what happens, not why, because it's a descriptive method, so it will not give you the reason, but it can be generalized on population. Now what the problem is surveys? Representative samples is one of the biggest problem. Suppose I want to study about something about the old age persons. What should be your population? The population must be from the old age persons, not from younger generations. And we will, of course, we know that we will try our best to make the population representative, or make our sample representative of the population, but it is a difficult task. We cannot always get the representative sample. And in surveys there is a problem that everyone who is doing some research, some kind of survey, is generally related to education, some education institutions, and they feel it is easy to find the population in their colleges, and hence majorly the sample representative sample is picked up from the college students. For example, you want to study about study about younger generation population, and it's in India. In India, you want to study something about younger generation population, and since you are from a college, you may be a professor, you may be assistant professor or something else. Now you have choose some participants from your college, or from many different colleges, let's say. Will that population be representative of all the younger generation population? No, that will not. What about those who are not in college, or who are not studying? They have left their colleges, and they are thinking their development level will be different from that which is the development of college students. That's also a great problem. And another problem with the surveys are people don't give always accurate answer as per them in a survey or in an interview or anything else, because it's a tendency of people to give the answers based on the social acceptability. If the question is, if there is a question, you will answer in that way that is it is socially acceptable, and that's where the reality is gets hidden. We cannot get into the reality if we are not getting if our participants are not giving us correct answers. So this is also a problem with surveys. Now coming to the qualitative findings or relationships, qualitative methods used in psychology. First one is correlational methods. Correlation by word, if I say we are going to find relation between two variables. Let's have some example to understand what is variable in psychology. Psychological research, the variables, you can say that if you smoking causes 1 minute, this may be different, lowers life expectancy. Right. So this is the example which I will use to make you understand what is correlation. Now, smoking lowers life expectancy. How we are going to find the result? This is your hypothesis, obviously, and we have to find the relation between smoking and life expectancy. So how we will get that? Firstly, we have to there are in this sentence we have two variables. First one is smoking and second one is expectancy. Both are variables because both may vary. We have to find the relationship between both. If someone is smoking more, his life, what is the impact of that in the life expectancy? If maybe that if someone is smoking more, the life expectancy will be less, and if someone is smoking less, his life expectancy will be more. So this is the relation, this is a common thinking, and we have to find whether it is true or not. So to study about this experiment, we have to study about whether this sentence is correct or not. We have to do something, some research. How we are going to conduct that research is that firstly what will be coming to your mind is that you will observe the persons who are smoking and you are those who are not smoking, but that's not the right way, because how many long years you have to wait for a simple result. Simply you will go to some hospital, and there you will pick up the records of its patients. Obviously the name, their confidentiality will be maintained, and you will choose those from hospital records. You will choose those patients who have been died, and if they have died, you will get their records whether they were smoking or not smoking. They were, how many cigarettes were they using in one day? It was less, it was more, and based on these categorizations, whether someone smokes or not smokes, whether he smokes less or whether he smokes more, and based on these categorizations you will check their life expectancy. How many years was he alive, and based on that we will get to a result. That's what the correlation is. Here we have used two variables, smoking and life expectancy. These are two variables. We have to find what is the relationship between the intensity of smoking and the life expectancy. You will get a result whether it is positively correlated or negatively correlated. What is the meaning of positively correlated and negatively correlated? Let's assume. Listen, we have two variables. One is smoking. If smoking increases, 1 minute. Okay, if smoking increases and life expectancy also increases, this means we have a positive correlation. Secondly, if smoking decreases, then life expectancy also decreases. This is positive or negative? Think about it and answer it in comments right now. I will see it. Okay, I hope you have given your answer. This will also be called as positive correlationship. Why? Because here we are not seeing that seeing any less or more. We are seeing the direction, that if one variable is going in the down direction, then other is following it. That's what the positive correlation means. We will use only direction. And thirdly, if smoking is increasing, life expectancy is decreasing. This is what a negative correlation, because the direction has changed. Okay, direction has changed. So this is what correlation is. What correlation is not? What is the problem with correlation? It cannot say causal relationship, or in other words, we can say it cannot say causation. Why? Suppose you have got the results of your study, that is smoking leads to less life expectancy, means it's a negative correlation. Can you say that your life expectancy decreased due to smoking, because of smoking? No, that will be wrong. Because if someone is smoking, he might not be focusing on his health, he might not eat healthy foods, or his style might be poor, etc, etc, etc. So those were the reason behind this less life expectancy, but this was not the actual reason. This shows only the relationship, not the causation, and this is a problem with correlations. What is the value of correlation? Actually, it's a mathematical system in which we find the correlation based on the statistical observations. Correlation of it is represented by R, and if it may be from +1 to -1. What +1 shows? It means that it has a very strong, it has a perfect positive correlation. It means that if a variable is changed by, let's say variable x is changed by 5 units, then variable y will also be changed by 5 units in the same direction. And if the correlation is -1, it means that if x is changed by 5 units and y, then y will also be changed by 5 units but in opposite direction. So with this description we can say that r can also be 0, and what this 0 means, that there is no relation between both the variables. Generally in our real life there is no perfect correlation, positive correlation or perfect negative correlation. We find the results like this, right? It generally doesn't happen to 0. If we have any logical experiment or logical correlation, then these tends to be the results. Next one is the experiment. It's a experiment is a technique where we can get the causal relationship. Causation is established in experiment, not in other type of other methods of research. It's only experiment where we can guess the causations. What is method? What is experiment? Let's understand it with an example. Let's say we want to know the effect of time on emotions. This is our question, and we want to get the answer. Based on this, what we can say, here we are getting two variables. One is time and second is emotion. What we will do, we will manipulate our time. That is, let's say we are manipulating our time in three ways. First, we will take the time of morning, then afternoon, and then evening. And on the basis of time, we will measure emotions. Remember, there are two variables. One is time, second is emotion. We are going to manipulate the time, and on the basis of our manipulation, we are going to measure emotions. Since we can manipulate the time, hence it is called independent variable, and we cannot manipulate it, hence it is called dependent variable. Because this is emotion, our second variable, is dependent on the time. We are showing the dependency of emotions on the time, so this will call as dependent variable, and we are showing time as our independent variable. Now listen it carefully, that in our experiment we have to make it clear that how we will manipulate time. Like I have said, we will choose a time of morning with a specific time like 7 a.m. and in afternoon and in evening. These are the three manipulations which we are doing with our independent variable, and we have to make it clear in our experiment that how we are going to measure our dependent variable also. So how you will measure your dependent variable, you also have to describe that in it. How you can measure it? You can measure it by the number of words the person says, and number of is how many times the person have speeched or spoken to, or he has become emotionally sad, or many times. It is hard to measure our emotions. One thing is to be noted, it is hard, but you have to show it in numbers, and that's how you are going to measure it. You have to do that. Okay, there are some simple examples also. Not you cannot only. Okay, let's move ahead. You can measure as per your convenience, but remember it should be logical. Now you have decided your dependent variable, you have decided your independent variable, and here you are going to form a hypothesis. You have to form a test hypothesis. And what should be your test hypothesis? It may be that as the time increases, the emotional content also increases. If the time increases, then emotional incidents will be increasing. This may be a hypothesis. This is only a hypothesis. I'm not saying that it is right, it is proven, it is not proven, and I don't even know that it's proven or not. But what are the results, I don't know. Remember, I'm just giving an example. So we have got to our experiment, we have formed an hypothesis. What is the next method? We have to collect our data, and for collection of data we need participants. Again the same problem like that which we received in our survey, that representative sample must be here. Here also in our experiment we must use a representative population sample of population to collect the data. And after we have got the raw data, we have to change it into qualitative data. That is, we have to find its average, we have to get some statistical methods, such as it may involve t-test, it may involve f-test, etc, etc, etc. So after these things you will get a perfect data for drawing a conclusion. And in the and next comes your conclusion explanation actually. And in your explanation you will you will have to describe the entire situation, that how you conducted your experiment, what may be the problem with your experiment. If you have find some results, then why you found those results. You have to explain the causes of your results. So experiment will give you a cause also. But we have got that there are in the experiment method there are two variables, dependent and independent. Are there some other other variables also? Yes, there are many other some other variables also. These variables may be called as tertiary variables or the control variables. What are the control variables? Control variables are those variables which we have to control them in your experiments in order to let them not make your study fail. Suppose in this experiment we have right now we have seen an example, and in this example we have set a timing, our participants are there, and there is so much voice or noise, you can say, in that room where you are conducting your experiment, that may affect your results. If the temperature of the room is far greater or far less in that less than the real environment, then that also may affect your results. So these are the control variables which you can try to control, but you always cannot control these variables. Why? Because there are some other variables which are related to the person's individual participants situation, and you cannot go through detail into this. So you cannot control all the control variables at the same time, because you are even not aware of all your control variables. And that's why your experiment cannot give the accurate results in a single time, in a single study. And that's why when a study is published, it is repeated by other researchers also, so that the study can be confirmed. That's what all about experiments we have talked. And let's see the we have seen the experimental effect. It is same as observer effect, and here we are going to know about what is placebo effect. We want to test a drug which can increase memory. So how can we test that? One is group A and one is group B. So to group A we have given a drug which can increase the boost the memory, and in group B we have not given anything. Now when we measure our results, when we test for the memory of group A and group B, we may find that group A has scored more in the progress of memory. Will that be the correct explanation of that group A was given the medicine, that's why the memory of group A was increased? That cannot be. Why? Because we are studying with the human behavior, and humans are not always humans are social elements, and they are always changing their behavior. And so the problem here is, it might also be happen that since group A was known that they will be given some medicine, and hence they themselves tried their best to perform well in their questionnaire for testing memory. Means it was not the effect of drug, it was the effect of their efforts. So is there any way to make this study accurate? Yes, there is. You will not tell a participant whether they are getting drug or not. You will give the participants of group B a placebo, which will be similar to the drug, but it will not be actually the drug. It will be something which will be harmless, like it may be a pill of water, it may be some sugar pill, etc, 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 which will not affect your behavior. So none of the groups are knowing whether they know the results or not, whether they have been given the medicine or not. And in that case B will also try to show that their memory has also increased. But if the drug has actually worked, the difference between group A and group B will be far more significant. There will be a great difference between the two, and hence at that time we can say that the drug has really an impact on the memory. But there is also a second problem, experimental effect. How you are going to eliminate the observer or experimental effect? A simple solution is that you will perform a single blindedness or a double blinded study. What is single blinded study? Single blinded study is, suppose there are two groups, group A and group B, and in this single blinded study means your participants are not aware whether they have been given a actual drug or not. But in double blinded study, the experimenter also is not aware of whether or which group has been given the actual drug and which has been given a placebo, and hence it will be revealed only after the entire data collection has been done, and this will reduce the impact of experimental effect. That's the end of this article. And next and the last topic of the chapter is ethical ethics of research psychology. When we are going to conduct some research, we have to follow some ethical rules which are laid down by APA, American Psychological Association, and different psychological associations in different countries also. These we will study in our next class, which will be the biological perspective of psychology, first perspective, which we are going to deal with. Okay, that's the end.